Guys, welcome back. So my interest is on this question specifically, and Altman Z score specifically. So we're aware that Altman Z score is a tool, a quantitative tool used to evaluate or value a company. Okay, in a way that it predicts the likelihood of a company failing. So I can first stick to the scores themselves. That the Z score, or the figure you come up with, is categorized in a way that whenever you're in a specific group or range, we have the way of classifying you. Okay, for example, we say if you're below 1.88, then we're saying you're in financial distress, or you're a failed company, or you're failing. Okay. Then if you're between 1.88 and 2.99, then we say you're in a gray zone. The gray zone ideally would mean that you're not safe, although you're not also you're not safe still, but you're also not very safe. Okay, I don't know how to put it rightly. Okay, the gray zone is that you're not the extreme. You're not in financial distress, but again, you're also not performing well. So the gray zone is more of telling you you still have a chance to rise up and then be safe or be better. So that is between 1.88 and 2.99. When you're above 2.99, then you're in a safe zone, or we say the chances of you running bankrupt is really very small. So you're in a safe zone. So that's for the Z score. Now, to comment on this particular question, the Z score in that regard, you would say that all these three companies are in a safe zone. They're performing far much better than the limit, the 2.999. So they're in the safe zone, the three companies. However, we're supposed to evaluate and confirm which two are actually better, or which one is the best, and which one is better, which one is good or bad. Okay. So having said that, the Z score, maybe if I may just share the screen for a few things that I can write on it before we just look at this very question in particular shortly. So as I open my worksheet, we're saying that it has a formula which you have to know. Okay, that you have several x's added together to come up with a z value, and these x's weights are attached on them. For example, where x1 has 1.2 in front, then x2 has 1.6, x3 has a 3.33, and then x4 has a 0.6, then x5 has a 1.0. Okay, those scores are not there by accident. Ideally, they're trying to tell you that these x's weigh this much.
On the screen.
I'm not sharing the screen. I'm just explaining as I share. Okay. So what was I saying? So now for those scores, they're important, of course, but the main important part is the x's themselves. The x1, x2. What do they represent? What do they stand for? Okay, so we're aware of this, at least for most of us. So if I may share my worksheet, which I just want to. Okay, here's my worksheet. So I'm saying the Z scores. Saying that, guys, please mute. I've been keeping quiet because I've been doing it myself. But I won't stop doing it. So I beg that once you join, just mute. Now the Z score, we're saying that It's given by 1.2 x1, okay, x1 being a subscriptor. So forgive my presentation. X.6, 1.6, sorry, it's being an x2. Then 3.3. This is x3. Then 0.6, x4. And finally 1.0, x5. Okay. Like I said, these coefficients have voids. They show the importance of each item here, the variables, which is x1, x2, x3. They really show the importance. Okay, that, for example, for x4, why it has a small constant is because of the fact that once customers or individual out there, what they perceive our company to be worth of it, the value of our company. It's more of a perception of individuals that don't stay in the company, but because they want to buy shares and maybe they see the company, they buy their stuff, so they think they know the value of the company. Yet ideally they may not. So because it's the perception of what the market thinks of our company, we usually don't really weigh their score as really significant at the end of it all. The discussion is for those who have an idea. Well, it's not really the case, but ideally you should be having an idea by now. That's what they're saying. But whether you don't have, it's still fine, because at least I'm trying to explain as much as I can. So X1 specifically stands for, you already know this, that is the net working capital divided by total assets. Okay, you can express this as a percentage or as or you keep it as a decimal. It's really your choice. So what this X1 does, like you're seeing net working capital, it really gives a picture or the position of a company in its ability to meet short-term obligations as they arise, as they fall due. Okay. Net working capital, total current assets minus, okay, just emphasize, net working capital is given by current assets, total current assets minus total current liabilities. Okay. Then so this is where the expression comes from. It comes from net assets. Whenever this ratio is huge or bigger, the assumption is that the net working capital is much greater than the total assets. And because of that, we're saying that we put our eyes on net asset, on net working capital, which is current assets minus current liabilities. And now net working capital looks at current assets meeting or being able to cover all the current liabilities. So whenever this ratio is therefore big, we say that the company is able to meet its short obligations timely. Okay. In other words, they don't have a liquidity issue. Okay. I.e., has no. Okay, not has no, but the liquidity position. Okay, that's what this ratio does. Then now we go to X2. For X2, it looks at retained earnings by total assets. Okay, now maybe I didn't explain what total assets are. Total assets equal to non-current or fixed assets.
Yes, Mr. Katawazi.
Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you.
X2 it is 1.49 to 1.6.
Yeah, sorry, it's 1.4. No, I skipped. Thanks, it's 1.4. I hope the others are fine. Okay, thanks. So this is it. Now, for retained earnings, what we look at is what do retained earnings do for the company? Okay, so whenever this ratio is big, is we assume that the entity has entities retained earnings or profits can cover company obligations such as payment of dividends, and then most importantly is investment. But whenever this ratio is huge, you're saying that the profits obtained or gained can cover ably payment of dividends to shareholders and also meet investment needs or investment obligations that can enable the company have serious returns that they can help the company survive for a long time and grow. So that's what X2 does. It looks at the ability of the company to pay off dividends and also invest in long term or enlarge its investment. Then for X3 is earnings or profits before interest tax. Okay, divided by total assets still. Okay, profit before interest and tax, as you can hear the word. These are amounts that are available before you pay off interest and tax. And because of that, whenever this ratio is big, the assumption is that the top figure, it's not really an assumption. The truth is the earnings before interest and tax will be much higher compared to total assets. So we say that whenever the ratio is high, then what's happening is that the company's ability to meet obligations, specifically finance costs, what you call interest, and taxes, is high. Okay. Whenever the ratio is higher, then we say the company's ability to pay these obligations, finance and tax, is actually high. So such a company is good because that means you can access loans ably and pay off the interest. If it's taxes, you're saying you're able to pay off all the taxes, especially the corporation tax. Okay, that is the ratio. Then X4, well, there's usually a contradiction because for it, it says the market, say the market capitalization, or the market value of equity, okay, divided by total or the book value of the debt, securities or instruments. Okay, the debt, okay, total, moreover, total debt, total book value. So it looks at all liabilities. Now this one here, as you can see, the ratio is really, this talks about the capital structure. It talks about the extent of financing of an entity based on either long-term debt or equity. Now, whenever this ratio is high, the thing is that you're using more of our money, what you call equity. Okay. So this one shows the level of leverage company. Okay. So if it is high, you're saying that the company finances its assets or investments the equity, what we call shareholders funds. Okay, rather than debt. Okay, and this is good. You want at all times you want to have your assets invested by the owners of the business rather than debtors or creditors. Okay, so that's what X4 does. The X5 looks at what we call the sales turnover. We have the sales, or what you call the turnover, vis-a-vis total assets. Okay. The ability of the company to make sales using these assets that they have. Who doesn't even know anything of what to make. Okay. Living is really choice, but ideally supposed to ask what are we finding, what are we doing, so that you're guided. But if you choose to live, then there's nothing you can say. So X5, we're saying it is equal to sales or turnover over total assets. Now, total assets, I've already told you about it. Now we're saying here it's the ability of it's more of efficiency, ability of management, to maximize sales from its assets. How efficient is management in terms of using its assets to come up with sales? So whenever the ratio is high, then we say they're doing well, or it's a good performance. So those are the ratios. You need to know the ratios and then know what they led to. What are they driving me to? If I have a big X1, what is it? How is it helping me out? If I have a big X2, how is it helping me out? So once you understand this, then everything becomes easy. So let's go to the question and try to attempt it. Okay, so the question was, the Altman's model is based on weighted 5 financial ratios to predict whether a company has a high probability of becoming insolvent. Okay, so following the first partial lifting up of the COVID-19 lockdown for the essential businesses in Uganda in June 2020, T Company, Com Company, and Trends T M Company dealing in building materials have attracted a number of potential investors. However, the potential investors are not certain of the survival of these companies, at least in the next 2 years. They have consulted HK consultants who have presented them with the recent key financial information about the company's performance, including the following Z scores. So given Z scores X1, X2, X3, so you know what they are and you know what you're looking out for. Okay. And then X5, and then you have the Z values. Okay, so the first thing you're supposed to look at is the Z values. Maybe the required part says that using your knowledge of the Altman Z score and with justification, advise the potential investor on the 2 best companies to consider investing in. Okay, so the first thing you look at is the Z score. Okay, so ideally, if there was any company having less than 2.9, then it will be out. So here you're saying that they both have a good Z score. It's above 2.9, so they're all in safe zones. So the Z score alone is not a justifiable reason as to why you would choose. Okay, so you wouldn't come over and say
0.9.
2.9 is because it was given. Okay, 2.9. Okay, maybe I forgot to say about that. I can just share again shortly. Okay, so this Z score has what you call the scale. You have a scale, the Z score, scale or ranges. So it says that if you're below 1.88, okay, then we say you're likely to fail. So it says distress. Okay, distress, that the spelling. Let's be it's distress. Then if you're between 1.88 to 2.99, okay, these are things that you're supposed to be knowing. Okay, you should know at least. This is the gray zone. I already talked about it in the beginning. Then if you're above 2.99, then you're saying you're in a safe zone. So before you look at anything, you want to first see the Z scores themselves. If it's above 2.9, then they're all perfect. Okay. But if it's below or in between here, then you have to first think about them. So you're saying go for it. You're saying you may want to think about it. Yeah? Because they still have a chance of coming into this column. So there's room for improvement. Then for this one is okay. Of course, if you're trying to invest, then this is a no-go zone. Okay, as far as the Altman Z score is concerned. It is 2.99. Kindly check again. It's 2.99. Then this one is 1.8, 1.88. Okay, we continue. So back to the question. So the first thing is you comment on that, that the three companies have Z scores above 2.99, so they're all safe they're all in the safe zone. So ideally, they are likely not to go into financial distress or to become insolvent. They're unlikely going to become insolvent. Okay, then you say, however, now the however part is now you begin commenting on these individual ones. Where there's a difference, I think. Even this one has a difference, yes, but because the Z score comprises of the several components, which weigh differently depending on the other codes that you saw, and therefore by those weights, the constants tell you the significance of each item. Measure again. These constants here tell you the significance. So when you see a 3.3, for example, for X3, it shows you how important that area is. So where somebody's X3 is so high, then the net effect on the entire thing is that the score will be also high for the Z. And that should tell you how important that area is. So for example, this one of 0.6 tells you how insignificant it is. If you're scoring so well in X4, you don't have to say that since I'm doing well in X4, then I'm great. No. Okay. For one reason that I shared already, that the market value of equity is usually an external kind of valuation. Somebody doesn't know what really is happening within the company whenever they're coming up with these justifications. Okay, they may be impressed with the size of the company, like what they see out there. Okay, but they don't know what actually is happening. Okay. And now the true indicators of what is happening in the business is the likes of net working capital, the retained earnings, the earnings and the sales themselves. Okay, otherwise the X4, the market capitalization value cannot tell you what is happening within the company. Okay, so I think I've said so much about these values. So just go straight to the question. So now this. So how do you comment about them? So you first look at X1, okay? X1, as you can see, T has a 0.18, comp has a 0.22, trend has a 0.16. So clearly comp is doing well in this regard. But also T's score is doing better than trend. So here, ideally, we would say that for X1, which is the net working capital ratio, comp company scores highly, okay, with a 0.2. Then T follows in suit with 0.18. Okay, so the ability of these two companies to meet their short-term obligations is much better than trend, and therefore you would want to consider T company and the com company. Okay, that is for X1. Then X2 doesn't differ also significantly from what I've just said up. The only challenge is that for X2 you have two companies with a similar figure. So here they will just they will help you to pull out only one company. So you will say that com company has a higher X2 value of 0.21 compared to the other two, which have 0.17, compared to the other two, which have the same X2 value of 0.17. Okay, so the ability of com company to meet its obligation in terms of dividends and have extra money or funds to finance other investments is much higher compared to the other two companies. Okay, and then you conclude that com company will be chosen in this regard. However, choosing between T and trend may not be possible because they have the same value. All right, then you go to X3. X3, still you're seeing that com company still is scoring so highly. Okay, that is 0.69, and then T follows in suit with 0.55. Okay, and therefore these two companies will be still chosen since they have the highest or higher scores compared to trend. Okay, and you emphasize what does X3 do? Okay, X3 refers to earnings before interest and tax to total assets ratio. Okay, which implies that the company's ability to meet its obligation in terms of financing charges and taxes, the two companies are doing much better compared to trend. Then X4, where there's a contradiction. X4, as you can see, trend scores highly with a 4.71 compared to comp and T, which follow in suit. Okay, but you will tell them, however, the X4, which is the market capitalization figure to total liability, is a subjective, or is a rather how do I put it? Is a rather non-significant figure or non-significant score. Reason being that the market value is based on external parties and their perception of the company. Okay, and since the external parties and they don't have the actual understanding and feel of what the company is going through, their perception may be biased and therefore does not give us a true picture of what's happening within the company. And therefore X4 does not weigh significantly on which companies I should choose in terms of the scores. So that's how exposure loses the mark, or in a way does not really give us a reason to take on that particular company. Okay, then you go to X5. X5 talks about the sales.
Andrew,
Yes.
excuse me, please. What do you mean by external parties computing the market capitalization?
Okay. So what I'm saying is the market value of equity is not based on what is happening internally within the company. Okay, It's rather based on what value people out there, like potential investors, like customers, like the public, okay, what they think the company is worth, okay. So someone will look at a company and think that this company is actually doing well, or like they will say that this company is worth maybe 20M, okay, because of the fact that it's seeing several buildings, it's seeing employees around, he's seeing products on the market, and he thinks that the company is doing well, and therefore they put a high value to the shares of a particular company. Okay, but now that is an external view of the entity of the company. What is internal, or what feels exactly, is items like I've told you already, the X1, X2s, X3s. Those are internal. They specifically talk about what is happening with the company. If you look at net working capital, for example, it's telling you the net assets, the current assets that we have can cover current liabilities that we have. Okay. Unlike the market value, I've already told you that the market value of equity, someone will tell you that my share is worth 20,000. Not because it's indeed 20,000, but because maybe several people want to buy it. Now you find that forces of demand and supply influence the price of a share. Okay. Now we're saying that that is not really true, or it's not exact, because people's perception doesn't give us the actual view, doesn't weigh so significantly on our value or on our Z score. That's what I'm trying to mean. I don't know if I've made sense or not, but that's what I'm trying to mean here. So usually X4, whenever you meet X4, that's how we explain it. That it's based on people's perception, and moreover, external parties that don't have a true feeling or a true understanding of the company. And because of that, the perception they give to the company is not really accurate. So you cannot really rely on it completely, because this is people's perceptions. Okay. Finally, X5, which is the sales thing, I already talked about it, that the ability of management to what make sales or to increase their sales from the assets is a score we consider seriously. That's why it weighs a 1. So as you see in this case, still Com company takes it all. It has 1.02. T follows in suit, and the trend follows later. So meaning if you to go with these ratios, Com and T would be chosen, because the ability to give us sales from the total assets is still high compared to the trend. And therefore, in conclusion, because T and Com have scored high in most of the variables, we take them as the two best companies. Of course, Com company coming first, and then T coming second. So that's how you're supposed to explain this question, 20 marks. Okay, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask, because I intend to stop here.
How is that?
How is what?